Hello and welcome to 6606 Government Business Relations. My name's Michael de Percy. I'm a Senior Lecturer in Political Science, and today I'd like to talk to you about political ideologies. Now, in the unit Government Business Relations, we examine the capitalist economic system. And what we're trying to do is to introduce to you this system that we live in. Now, the problem with the capitalist economic system is that it's not something that we can touch or feel, yet we can experience it. And we experience it whether we like it or not. We exist within this particular economic system. But what I want to explain to you in this unit, or part of this unit, is how we got here. Why is it that we operate our economy in this particular way? How did we get to this stage in human history? And is it the best that it can be? Now, part of your experience at the University of Canberra, Australia's capital university, is to assist you to become creative professionals, but also to develop a social conscience, to understand the impact that you as a highly qualified and well-trained person can have on the society in which you live. So, in order to understand this, we need to have a broad understanding of the capitalist economic system, how we got here, why it is the way that it is, and why we do the things that we do, particularly in relation to regulating business and the impact of government on business more generally. Now, before we can get to this point of understanding the capitalist economic system, we need to understand how humans understand politics in general, but also how we describe and understand what it is that we value in society. So to do that today, I'm going to introduce you to 4 key political ideologies. Now, there are many more and there are many variants, but at this level in your first year, to understand this system, these are the 4 key ideologies that you must understand. The first is liberalism. Now, liberalism focuses on the individual and freedom from the state. Next is conservatism. Now, conservatism views the state as necessary to protect us from ourselves and from each other. Now, socialism is where, rather than valuing individual freedom or the protection of the state, we value the collective, the society as a whole. And typically, socialists have attempted to do this through peaceful parliamentary means. Now, at the other end of the scale, it has been tried throughout human history and it hasn't been successful, and the global capitalist economic system attests to this. Nonetheless, communism is our 4th political ideology, and it remains the most useful critique of the capitalist economic system that exists today. Now, it's very difficult to explain the difference between socialism and communism. Indeed, many American academics will say that there's no difference. But the way that we address this in this particular unit, so that we have an appropriate historical perspective to understand the capitalist economic system, is that we look at communism as focusing on the society as a whole, but as seeing the state as the reason for differences of outcomes, both social, political, and indeed economic, in our societies. So the 4 key ideologies: liberalism, conservatism, socialism, and communism. Now, let's try and understand the differences in these, and the way I'm going to do that is by introducing you to Ball and Dagger's triadic model of freedom. So triadic means 3, all right? 3 parts to this model, and by presenting it in such a way, it enables us to compare the different ideologies and also to really see the differences, because this becomes very important. Now, let me explain. If you believe that humans are inherently good, then when you regulate businesses, regulation can be light. You can trust businesses to do the right thing. Now, the Industrial Revolution proves that when business is left to do its own thing, it doesn't do it very well. There needs to be government. There needs to be some form of government intervention. But how much? So, conservatives will suggest that we need to have a strong government presence in order to keep business doing the right thing. A socialist will say that business should not be involved at all. Indeed, government should own the most important elements of our society: the postal service, telecommunications, power at schools, and so on. Now, for a liberal, this would preclude the Liberal from operating a commercial business in order to provide the things that society needs, wants or desires. So there are these different perspectives. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we get to this understanding, we need to understand the key differences. Now, I'm going to do this old school, all right? I'm going to do this with a whiteboard and a pen. So, to introduce the triadic model of freedom, let me explain. So, ball and dagger, look at this model where firstly we have the agent. And this is the person or the thing who is affected by the ideology. Now, in the model, the agent is always trying to achieve freedom or a goal. And this goal inherently is about freedom. But what do we mean by freedom? This is the problem. What is it to be free? Now, if you are to be free to do whatever you like, what if your freedoms impinge upon somebody else's freedoms? Who decides? This is the critical question that we ask in political science. Who decides? Who has the power? Who has the right to decide? But then where do we get rights from? Are they given to us by God, by the state? Do we have them just because we're born? Ideologies attempt to address these questions. So when we're talking about freedom, we're going to look at 4 different perceptions of freedom from these different ideological perspectives. But of course, whenever you're trying to achieve a goal, something always tries to get in the way. So the third part of our model is the obstacle. So in trying to achieve their goal, the agent must address the issues presented by an obstacle in order to be free. So let's look first at liberalism. I said before, in liberalism, the individual is regarded as the most important actor in society. Now think about it. As an adult individual, you have rights and responsibilities, but at the same time, we generally in our Western societies believe that the individual is the most appropriate being to make decisions about an individual's welfare. So you decide how you behave, how you act, what you do, how you work, how you dress. It's deemed that you are rational and capable of making the choices which are most suitable for your own welfare. So one of the problems, however, is that we cannot simply have individuals doing whatever they want. So in order to keep individuals from harming each other, the state, or the government, if you will, plays a key role. So the problem for a liberal, however, is how much intervention or what extent is the state able to intervene in one's individual life. So the obstacle for the individual in liberalism is actually the government. Now the goal, of course, is freedom, but how can we be free? One of the problems is that if you are born to a wealthy family, it's much easier to get a good job, to have an enjoyable life, and to live well and long. If you're poor and you can't afford to go to school, you can't afford healthcare, then you're free pretty much to die in the gutter. So that's no freedom at all. So in order to ensure this freedom, liberals tend to focus on equality of opportunity. So this is where we derive our freedom, from equality of opportunity. So in effect, if one person is rich and another's poor, then that's fair. It's fair because everyone had the same opportunity. What you did with your opportunity determines the outcome. The outcome's not predetermined, it's actually up to you. So if you work hard and stay in school and do all the things that your parents tell you to do, you can have a good job and a good life and live well because you have access to healthcare, education and everything else on a reasonably equal footing compared to the rest of society. Countries like Australia attempt to do this. They attempt to provide certain levels of education and healthcare that every citizen is entitled to, and what you make of your life after, according to liberals, is effectively up to you. You get to choose. Here's the model, here's freedom, this is liberalism.